Pennsylvania for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Comer and Ranking Member Ruiz. And thank you for the witnesses for being with us today. We appreciate both your time and your testimony. This select subcommittee has the responsibility of investigating the origins of the coronavirus and analyzing and scrutinizing the failed policies that arose. And further, we've been charged with holding those public health officials accountable for enforcing those harmful COVID-era policies. More important, what the American people want and what the American people deserve is to know what this body intends to do and how this body intends to safeguard our nation and protect our citizens from the next public health emergency. Clearly, the coronavirus pandemic is a direct result of failed biosecurity and failed biosafety regulations. In fact, this committee held a hearing in July that examined the controversial proximal origins piece that confused the picture by not allowing the necessary information to come forth by pointing to a lab leak. Even the ODNI report that was released said, and I'm quoting, "The Department of Energy and the Federal Bureau of Investigation assess that a laboratory-associated incident was the most likely cause of the first human infection with SARS-CoV-2. Now more than ever, it is crucial that we strengthen and we secure our regulatory framework as it relates to both biosafety and biosecurity. Only then can we ensure better preparedness and execute a more effective response ahead of that next public health emergency." Dr. Parker, how important is oversight, biosafety, and security in foreign countries? Let's carve out, because we've been talking about subcontractors, let's carve out and look at those subcontractors. Where the initial funding comes from here, comes from the United States, do you feel that U.S. funds should continue to labs that are subcontracted, that don't have the same safety standards that we have in the United States?
Well, I think as I said, any of our work with infectious diseases internationally ought to be compliant with the same guidelines, standards that we have in the United States.
Thank you. I think that's an important message for all of us to take home. Dr. Parker, your extensive background in this area, are you aware that some countries have that inherent lack of biosafety and bioethics that are so important? Should certain countries be excluded?
I think really the issue, and I think I've said it already before, is any country that lacks the institutional norms, the ethical foundation, and the commitment to making sure that these laboratories can operate safely and securely, and they're sustained, they have the skilled workforce, those are all essential, no matter what country.
Are there any countries that have come to top of mind that you think should be excluded, that currently might function as subcontractors?
Well, I think any country that lacks those institutional norms, and that would be up to the funding agency to verify that they have the right institutional norms.
So before that funding comes from an NIH grant, which this body approves, those countries should be thoroughly evaluated before any subcontractors are used. Is that your point?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Youssef, you made an incredibly interesting point. In your testimony, you said that the question of a lab leak in China allows a big blinking red light to be present. A big blinking red light to me means stop. How do we stop?
Thank you for the question. In my choice of the big blinking red light is a warning light, not a stop light. And I think it's...
Well, I think then we need that clarification, because I think most of us as drivers see a big blinking red light to mean stop. And we've seen those concerns. I think that those concerns from this select subcommittee continue to exist. And I think in that preparedness, which we are trying to formulate, how to protect and be prepared for that next public health emergency, I actually think you were spot on with that assessment. I think a big blinking red light, we have to stop, we have to pause, and we have to make sure that the biosecurity is in place. It is an important role for our charge to make sure that we protect, and each of us representing 750,000 constituents, each of us take that responsibility. Incredibly important. I thank both of you for being here today, and Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Gentleman yields back.